Hey, welcome back to the Wake Coaching Podcast. I'm Jeff.
Yes,
This is
Allie.
and we're the Wentz. And Wake Coaching is something that something we started because we truly believe that every life leaves a wake, especially if lived intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do,
want to help you design your legacy.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so today, what we're talking about, and this is interesting, we're talking about the first year of operating a business. And
The very start.
Right? And so what's funny about it is that today happens to be the 1 year anniversary
To the day.
exact day of when we opened our strength training gym called Discover Strength in Draper, Utah.
Yeah.
And so, woohoo, 1 year. What's funny about that though is that we knew what the day was. Like we knew it. Like I remember all the things, but I had forgotten the day until our good friend, who is the chief operating officer type individual for Discover Strength Corporate, his name's David G, texted us and congratulated us on being open 1 year. And I saw the text, was like, and I had to check my watch to see, oh my gosh, that is today. And it blew me away. I was like,
I actually knew it was today, but
I forgot.
I didn't even say anything, obviously. And I was going to send out a text to our owner group and just got busy. That's how important it was to me, I guess.
Right. And so, but it's interesting because I think sometimes, and this will be a podcast for another day, but taking the time to celebrate, I think sometimes we're just so, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, we are so deep in the weeds that we may even lose track of time.
Yeah.
Not just time in the day, time in the week, but time in the year.
Dates.
This was major. Can you imagine forgetting your child's birthday or forgetting,
I can
spouse?
imagine it, but it wouldn't be
They'd
good.
They'd remind you. So it'd be okay, right? There's no way our kids would forget. I mean, they're reminding us 3 months out, 6 months out.
We're counting down the year.
Oh my gosh.
Prior,
6 months to my birthday. I'm like, okay, just chill out. Okay. There's a lot of birthdays between you and between today and your birthday. And so, but we just want to talk about the first year of a business, from our experience. Now, I mean, there's a lot of people that they have had different experiences. And I think that's one thing. I think there might be similarities in stories, but I think every story is different. And I think it needs to be celebrated. You need to celebrate the uniqueness of your story. Yeah. And so we just have some thoughts we wanted to share about this. So
we like to do that. We like to reflect on anniversaries, right? What happened this past year? It was tough. What were the setbacks? What were the challenges? Let's validate all that happened because we went through a lot, right? Yeah. And then let's celebrate all of the amazing things. So we have a habit of doing that. And so, we just kind of wanted to do that for our first year of Discover Strength. But I mean, generally, all stories are different, but the through line that I've really seen with most of them is that the first year is crazy hard. I love that. I was talking with one of my friends about this, and she was like, I just kind of wanted to pretend that year didn't happen.
Right.
Can we just scratch that from the record? It was so dismal, sometimes. So you're just that was the revenue I brought in over that year, We're so I basically paid to work.
If you do the math a lot of times, and I think this is I'll say this, I'm sure there are just the outliers, the rocket stories where oh, we made X billions of dollars in the first year. And you're whatever. For the majority of entrepreneurs and the majority of people that are doing business, that's not the story. I think the common denominator, the common story is what your friend said. Can we just scratch that from the record? Can we pretend that didn't happen?
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that can help with that, and just one of the principles we think about is that I think when you're starting a business, you have all these, hopefully you're passionate about it, right? You have a desire, this drive, you expect it's going to take off. But I think one thing you don't often expect is that it's going to be hard, right? But not hard, oh yeah, it'll be hard. But oh my gosh, I didn't realize how hard it was going to be.
It's a grind. You believe in it now, but you lose belief at times, right? You really just want to quit. That kind of hard.
Right. Right. Like we were talking about this and I said, it was like, you know how you plan for the best, but expect for the worst. And I was like, what if you plan for the worst and then, you expect the worst and plan for the worser. Like that's like year one of a business and of entrepreneurship. And so maybe you're like, wow, guys, super encouraging. Well, we're alive. We made it, like we made it 1 year. We're still going.
No, we're not trying to be like negative Nellies. I think that one of the things that we've seen is that perception and reality are just two totally different things. And we're talking with entrepreneurs every day.
Yep.
And all at totally different stages within, the life of their business. But we are surrounded by startups, right?
Yes.
And people who are just getting going, and it can feel so incredibly isolating when you are in that first year, or even the first few years. It takes quite a while, longer than any of us want to believe or expect, to really get a business off the ground and really thriving. Most businesses, 50%, fail out in the first 5 years. But that's the first 5 years.
4 more years.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, it just helps you to see like, oh, wow, like that runway is actually really long.
Yeah.
And again, this isn't to be discouraging, or if you're thinking about starting a business to have you be like, oh gosh, I'm not doing it. Like, it's not to discourage you, but it's just to help you like see reality, because perception is we're all trying to like purvey to everyone else that things are going well.
Right.
We're trying to put on a brave front because it's not doing us any good as entrepreneurs to like wear our emotions or our fear or all the things on our sleeve. I mean, that's not going to serve us, right? That's not going to attract clients or like partners or anything like that. Like, you have to be strong. You have to be optimistic. You have to go out there, and regardless of having like the door slammed in your face 10 times in a row, you have to put on a smile and move on. Right? And so that's what we do. But then perception is like, you're looking at everyone else thinking like they're doing great. Like they're super successful.
Everyone else is crushing the game. And you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to get out of bed today. Like really, like that's the, like the perception piece. And I think that's the importance of like, there's this tension between putting the smile on, but also being vulnerable to the right crowd, to the right people.
Yeah.
Because that's like, hey, honestly, we're struggling a little bit. Like you had this conversation the other day, we were in one setting and someone asked you, hey, how are things going? And you're like, I don't know what to say.
Don't know how to answer that question
anymore. I don't know how to answer that question because it's like, do you really want to know because you asked, or should I just like, you don't really want to know. So like, I'm good. But it's like, honestly, you want to grab coffee and talk about it? Because it's like,
it's complicated. That's what I want to start saying.
That's awesome. That's actually
it's really
great.
Complicated.
That's actually fantastic. It's complicated because you're right. Because some days you're like, yes, best day ever. And then the next day you wake up and you're like, oh, we lost a client. Oh, we lost 5 clients. Oh my gosh. We've come off weeks where like that was the best week we've ever had. This is like 3 weeks ago. We actually
had the best and the worst week we've ever had in the same week.
What? Like as far as like the revenue, as far as the client count, as far as all of that, it was like, yes. And then it was like we hit a new record. And also we had a record level of clients walk away that week or go on hold or whatnot. And we're like, oh my gosh.
So perception is very different from reality. And that's something that you do have to keep in mind. And it is so important to find that like safe group where you're with like-minded entrepreneurs and you can be honest about the struggles. You can talk about those things with one another. Like it's a safe place, because you going out and being positive and like putting on that brave face and all the things, like that isn't disingenuous. That is what we have to do.
It's called leadership.
Like
it's called ownership. It's called owning a business, right?
Yes.
And believing in your product.
Yes, but you also need that safe place where you can kind of like just let it all out, be real, vent, commiserate.
We have a group of friends that we meet with every few weeks, and we sit and we talk and we go through, how's it going for you, pros, cons, what's new, different things. And it's interesting, this last time we met, it was the amount of perspective they brought to us. I was like, oh, okay. Because sometimes when you are isolated, you just get in your little hole, your little cubicle, your little, like, it's just like, you're just trying to survive. You're in survival mode, and you need someone almost like to borrow their courage. Yeah. The idea of encourage is like to infuse courage into someone. Like, I'm encouraging you. Yeah. But there's sometimes where you literally like, I need to be encouraged and I need to borrow courage. Right. And so having other people that you can talk to and like borrow their courage, or for them, because they're not feeling what you're feeling, they're not in the mix of it, they can offer perspective and they can offer their courage to you. They can encourage you. It's so incredibly important.
Yeah. Okay. So the lessons we've learned from the first year so far, expect it to be hard.
Yes. Expect it to be hard. Number two
was perception is not reality. Don't feel isolated in the struggle on your own. Like, find your crew. Know that this is truly the experience that most of us have had or are having.
Our struggle is not
at
unique
the beginning
to
of
us.
the journey.
Yes.
Yep.
Our story might be, but our struggle isn't.
Yeah.
And so I think then the third one or another one would be like zero predictability.
Zero. Oh my gosh. So we are all about goal planning. I mean, we
love this.
We teach this. We do it ourselves.
Smart goals. And so, all the goodness.
Like, we know how to do this, right?
We're really smart. We're highly competent individuals. I promise you.
At least we thought.
Well, we thought so.
Until we started like projecting out and goal planning for the gym, right?
Goodness.
Yes. And we have had to adjust down those projections like so many times.
Right.
And throughout the whole first year, we were always so far under our projections.
It was
like,
demotivating.
It was laughable.
Demoralizing.
Yes. And so one of the things that we realized is like having these projections, these goals for where we would be at, and we were so much lower, is like, even when we were on the rise and we were doing better and we were growing, we still felt completely demoralized because we were still so far below where we thought we should be.
The week that we had the greatest week ever, based upon our goals, we were still 20% less than where we projected we would be.
Yeah.
And so even in that, it was like, best week ever, but we're not there yet.
So it was really hard to feel good about even that win. It was hard to celebrate that. And so one of the things, that third lesson is just don't put too much stock in your projections because they're really not based upon anything. I'm not saying to not do them. You have to have goals. You're always going to work harder when you're working towards a goal. And so, yes, set the goals, set the projections, but don't put so much stock in these projections that are really based off of absolutely nothing that you're not celebrating the successes that you do have. And be willing to adjust them as you go when you start seeing, you know what, that is completely unrealistic. That would have been great, but it is not reality. Okay, let's adjust and make it a game that we can win. So lack of predictability in that first year, it's a real thing. It can cause real issues. And so as you're looking at that, make sure that you're adjusting and you're still celebrating the wins.
And I do think with that, like, you have to be able to pivot from there. And I think that's the key to entrepreneurship. That's the key to ownership. Mike Tyson talks about the idea like everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, right? And so then you have to pivot. You have to change. Okay, what is the market bringing? I thought this was going to hit. It didn't, but that does. Okay, let's flow this way. So I think if you do get too stuck to your plan that you predicted, it can be the end of your business because you're not able to pivot and able to do what your business is, what we're best at, what the market is purchasing or bringing interest from. And so that's another thing about that is really important, that like if you're too stuck to your projections or predictions, you can't actually pivot to something that is working.
Yeah. And you're typically in a mindset of like, you feel like you're failing. And so you're not in a positive mindset where you can be a creative problem solver.
Yeah.
So yes, leave that space for yourself. Like give yourself that permission. Like, okay, we thought we were going to do that. It's not happening.
Right.
Okay.
Final thing. Number 4.
Yes. Number 4, learning from the first year.
So who's in your crew?
Yeah.
Right? Like there's sometimes like, how am I going to do this? You're like, well, no, actually, who do I need to do this? And then who do I need to do this with? Or who do I need? Like who's in my crew? Like a crew of advisors.
Yeah. Well, and of course, like this is not our concept. This is not a new thing. There's the book Who Not How by Ben Hardy, right?
Yeah, that's a great book.
Awesome. But it truly is like such gold because it really is about who you place around you. The beginning feels so daunting of just like, how are we going to accomplish all of this? And you can get really stuck in the how, in the strategizing, and not wanting to step forward and move forward before you have that plan.
Yeah.
But a lot of times the plan doesn't really become apparent until you really have those right people around you. And so that's what we've really learned is like, as much as you can, even if they're not paid employees, like if you're not in a place where you can actually employ people, get a team around you, get people who are willing to advise you. They don't have to work for you, but you still need to create that team around you who's going to really help you get there. I mean, there's a few people in that, like you need, like you said, advisors.
Yeah.
Advisors. What kind of advisors are beneficial to have?
I think some of them, to a degree, like there's your professional advisors, right? Like I need your CPA, someone to help you figure out what to do with the money you're making or not making, right? The money, like how do I count this as, a normal and like this is a normal expense? Well, I need a CPA to help me with that, right? Or legal, like we had the wonderful privilege of being thrust into, legal issues in the past year with one of our previous employees. And so you need legal help. You need someone that you can trust in that moment. And so those are huge ones. Like from a professional standpoint, I think even industry experts or insiders.
Absolutely.
Like someone who knows the industry so well. We have so the business we're talking about right now is a franchise, and we have the corporate council, the interaction that
the whole corporate team.
The whole corporate team. They're brilliant, amazing, so helpful, so kind. But like in talking to them, like they're just talking, like their normal conversation. And it's so far above my head that I'm like, I don't even, oh my gosh, like I need them. I need their perspective. I need their insight. I need their intelligence. Like I need their expertise.
So luckily we have that team to work with and to lead and guide us. But, within your industry, who are some thought leaders or experts out there that you don't even have to know them, but you can follow them. Like
you can read their book. We just mentioned Ben Hardy's book.
Yep.
Like you can listen to their podcast. You can follow them, their social media. You can learn from them from afar.
Absolutely. They can mentor you. Another person that you need to have in your crew is a coach. Someone who can be a safe place and a sounding board for you. Often in the beginning, you're trying to be really like all things to your business. And it's not a place you want to stay in. It's hard to do, right? Like you can't be good at everything. But that's often the reality in that first year. And so having people around you that know you well and can again, like kind of call you out on blind spots or help you see things that you're just not looking at in the right way. Like you're just way too close. And so you don't have a good perspective. Someone who's really trusted that can speak into your business and into your life. That's going to help you in an incredible way.
I think the greatest thing about a coach is that they see something in their players that the players don't see in themselves. And they're able to not just like see it, they're able to call it out and even help them like curate that. And so I think like that's something when I think about coaching and a coach is that because there's times where like what you said, you're just so in it. You're in survival mode. Like you're in the weeds so deep, and you have blind spots and you need someone to be like, hey, have you considered? Or hey, have you like, well, have I paused long enough to actually ask someone that question or allow someone to observe that or speak over me? And that matters in a huge way, having that coach. And the final thought, the final one for the crew is a cheerleader. Like you need cheerleaders. And we've been in a space that at times, like, it's just, man, it's challenging, it's difficult. And we need to send a text. We need to make a phone call, and we need someone outside of the situation that truly can cheer us up.
Because perception is, like we talked about, the perception that you have about other people being successful, and people have that same perception of you.
Yeah. Yep.
Even though you know that you're struggling through this first year or second, third year, whatever it is, people are like, oh, they're a business owner, right? They're doing well. And a lot of people are not going to know or understand like the plight well enough to know and understand you need to be encouraged. Yeah. And so having those people who actually know what's going on in your life and can be that encourager and that cheerleader for you is so crucial.
A few lessons we've learned from year one of owning a business on our 1 year birthday anniversary. What is it? A birthday or an anniversary?
I don't know either. Let's call it a birthday.
A birth-anniversary. That's what it is. And so hopefully this is beneficial to you. If you're thinking about starting a business, like, I hope our words will help you be, like, honestly, to set your expectations properly. Expect it to be hard. Like, it's, you know, it's very fulfilling looking back at it. We won't not do it. We still believe in the product in such a huge way. We still believe in what we're doing. We're able to influence and affect and change people's lives. So we still believe in it, even though it's been hard. Yeah. And hopefully you will as well with your product, with your business, with what you're doing. But I encourage you, plan on it being hard. And so that way, when it's hard, you're like, well, I expected this. And then when it's not as hard, you know, if you're like, oh, this week's gone great, you give yourself space to celebrate it. In other weeks, when it's going harder than you thought, you give yourself space to recalibrate it. So I encourage you. I'm coaching again, aren't I? I'm going to stop coaching. Wind it up.
We're done.
Wind it down. That's it. That's all. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Weight Coaching, our podcast. If you did, please subscribe, share it, continue to come back. We'll have more and more content for you. Search back, scroll back to some of our previous content. If you're new to the channel, I'm so glad you're here, and I hope you enjoyed this today.